I'm Grifter.
I'm Bart.
So hi, we run the Black Hat NOC. Who are we actually? Let's see if this is going to work. Come on, clicker, click.
Is the clicker not working?
You know what? This is
Use the keyboard. Old school.
Bam. Keep it gangster. So my name is Neil Wyler. All of you know me as Grifter because I don't like my name. But beyond that, by day, I am the global lead of active threat assessments for IBM X-Force. By night, I do this for Black Hat. This is my 20th Black Hat US show. So 20 years ago, Jeff Moss handed over this network to a child. But it worked out. So the Black Hat Network and I have grown up together. I'm also department head over at DEF CON, where I run all the contest events and the demo labs. I speak at conferences a lot, wrote some books. I like security.
I always hate going second because yours is bigger. My name is Bart Stump. I've been doing this now 15 years. By day, I am a senior SE over at NetWitness. We traded places, if you guys didn't. Not traded places, he left me. Involved with the community, do a whole bunch of other things, but not a list like his, so that's me.
I didn't want to leave, I just did. I miss you. It's not true. We live 20 minutes from each other. We see each other all the time. So we don't do this alone. That would be absurd. This photo, man, oh, that's a really bad one. It looked good on a small screen. Anyway, now it looks like it was taken with a potato and is actually a really expensive camera. But that's the NOC team. You know what? We blurred their faces for privacy. There we go. Okay.
I was going to blame it on Casey, the photographer.
No, it's all good. So that is the team. There are quite a number of guys and gals who help out doing this. And like, we bring a team of our friends, essentially. There's a team called the Technical Associates. There are 15 of them that we select who range anywhere from just SOC analysts up to VPs of security companies who volunteer their time to come out and help us make this network work. But obviously, there are more than 15 people in that photo because we also do this with partners.
Partners. So a little bit has changed. As you see, though, we have Palo Alto, Lumen / CenturyLink. They changed their name. It's confusing to me still as well, but it's OK. We'll go with it. NetWitness, IronNet. Cisco has stepped up quite a bit and done a bunch more this year. And then Gigamon still provides the tap for us to get all that data to those tools.
Yeah, so we're going to show you all the stuff it takes to put this together. There's the gear. The list
seems to continue to grow, and we talk about this all the time. I won't steal too much thunder from later, but it's evolved, and the lot has come a long way, and it still feels like there's a whole lot more to do. So,
yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but when we originally started, so the first Black Hat US show that I was part of, we had like a Cisco 2600 router, a couple of Netgear switches, those old Cisco APs that had Orinoco gold cards in them, and you would like tape the antennas to the wall. So I get to see a little chuckles and some smiles from the old people in the audience.
So this is a hard way. We won't run through everything list by list or number by number, but Palo Alto brings firewall solutions. Cisco has stepped up and done switching and access points this year. But they also provide Umbrella, Threat Grid, and Security Manager on all of the mobile devices that you see on the show floor, as well as registration. NetWitness provides logs, packets, and endpoint, as well as orchestration. A whole bunch of gear to store every packet on site during the show. Gigamon, again, provides the tap to view all of that data, get it to all those tools, as well as some of the open source tools. IronNet, again, provides more visibility. And then Lumen, again, provides 2 10-gig circuits that we get from Denver and Sunnyvale.
So, I mean, there's a good talking point there, is that there's a lot more stuff from Cisco on there this year as far as just physical equipment. So Cisco's always been a they've been a partner for the last probably 6 years, 7 years, helping us out with Threat Grid and malware analysis, Cisco Umbrella, things like that. So software support, right? But 26 days before the Singapore show this year, I'm trying to share some of the challenges we have here in the NOC, and you'll hear why in a second. But 26 days before the Singapore show this year, the partner who provided wireless and switching for us said, hey, because of equipment shortages and the still ongoing pandemic stuff, we're not going to be able to support the 2022 shows. And we went, whoo, let's do that. You know anybody who can get us some gear? And thankfully we did. So Cisco knows somebody who has a lot of hardware. That's them. And they were like, we got you, right? And they came in a pinch and provided all the gear that we needed for Singapore. So they came in with Meraki, and we got everything set up in Singapore, kind of burned that gear in, and we were like, all right, let's see what happens at the US show. And so here we are. So thank you, Cisco, for bailing us out.
Architecture. So we're see how many phones come out. This is a little more logical laid out. You can see, for the most part, same old, same old. Denver, Sunnyvale, again, 210 gig circuits come into redundant LAN on the switch. Then we get the 2 firewalls that provide all of that layer 3, they're the gateway throughout the network for every VLAN and every network that we have. Gigamon provides that data again out to all of the tools. Again, open source, IronNet, NetWitness, and any other tool that we want to view there. And then one of the other big things that we talked about a little bit last year, but obviously last year was a little different, and it's provided a few extra requirements, we'll say, is that all of this is now streaming, right? So last year, obviously, that was the case for the majority of it, but that was not the case going back to 2019 and before. So now we have a whole lot more requirements for the AV teams and what they need as far as the network connectivity, multiple VLANs, multiple networks in pretty much all the rooms. So we had to break those out for them across. They're behind us. But we had to break that out in all the rooms as well. So a whole shift of changes post-pandemic, post-partner change, post-everything, kind of getting back into our stride. But as much as possible, again, keep it simple, and majority of it is the same.
Yeah, it is. There's always adjustments made. Everything thanks to like Bart puts a lot of effort into it, and to Steve MF Fink over here, our partner in crime on the NOC. I'll let you decide what MF stands for. We know, and you're right. That's what it means. But we have a lot of dashboards in there, right? There's a lot of stuff in the NOC. The things that we're using, we're actually using, right? They are informational tools for us. You could come into the NOC in the front area and go in and look and see that the dashboards had genuine data of things that were going on. The one in the center is just an open source tool. We like to talk about it because it's shiny. It's every NOC needs a pew pew map. That one takes the top 50 or the 50 most chatty hosts on the network, and it tells us what they're passing. When you saw the green moving, that's TCP, red is UDP, ICMP looks white, and it allows us to look at the network visually and just kind of see what's going on. The little packets are just normal data going by, but as more traffic is passed, they get thicker, right? So the lightsaber style looking ones is a lot of traffic, and what we'll do is look at something like that and say, man, there's a whole lot of traffic being transferred there. What is that? And we go to the NetWitness team and we say, hey, will you look between these two and see what it is that they're passing? Or if we see a scan, that looks like fireworks. It just out to all these different hosts. And so we'll be like, what are they sending? Or why are they communicating with all these different ones?
Remember OIP for later too. We'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. So again, the dashboards are real. There's a bunch of different stuff. I'm not going to read everything to you. We only have 30 minutes, and we actually want to hear questions more than you care to listen to us talk. But you can see all the devices down here. I can't read that from here.
You think they can?
I can't read it on this either. But what you're seeing is the amount of devices as they come on the network, the larger peaks being yesterday, and then the point at today where we pulled these stats, which was about 130. So thousands of unique devices. What are they and where are they? And those different things are one of the things that we're trying to keep track of, right? What do we need to support? Where do we need to deploy more equipment maybe, because there's a bunch of them in a different area. Up top is a map of the actual physical space, and then I should have just cropped that and put the Mandalay Bay on it. But it actually tells us like, oh, here are some of the devices that we deployed that, and where they are located. Most of them being in the expo hall or, you know, around, like they're walking around trying to scan your badge with the iPhones there. And one of them we noted was out by the pool. So we were like, somebody's ditching. But yeah.
Got them. So one thing that I want to add about dashboards that we've seen recently and chatted about a little bit amongst ourselves, you can see tons of data, and to the whole point of Grifter, you know, not being able to, here you go. This is all amazing data. This is all well and good. Usually when you're sitting in a SOC as an analyst, there's tons of data here. Grifter and I, to some extent now, are running around a whole lot more, not necessarily hands on keyboard, aren't necessarily looking at everything in that deep of a perspective. And as pew as OIP is, he and I can look at it as we run in the room for 5 minutes and go answer somebody else and see that things look okay. Somehow you make that look good. But there's not enough of that otherwise. So as an SE during the day, again, I understand now a little bit more the executive perspective of wanting executive summary, wanting red, green, yellow, something a little more simple to know everything is good and well, and when I walk back out, I'm not going to get called back in immediately. Or I should stay because everything's red. So
just a couple nonners looking for a traffic light.
Simple.
Yeah. So we have some stats, right? So looking at these are the, let's see, total devices. I can't see it over there. I mean, I could, but then I'd have to run out into the audience, and that's just weird.
You're looking at Trevor real close.
Yeah, again, you want me to pick it up and hold it out like that? No. So over 10,000 unique devices, 367 different IoT devices, and you can see there's a tiny little thing under that says one high risk. We're like, I wonder what that is. Like, but you know, lots of different applications. You can see on the side too the types of devices that they are. So Apple devices making up the significant amount of devices that have associated with the network. And then, you know, moving down to PCs with Windows.
Linux is top 5.
Linux PCs, yeah, stuff like that.
Must be
so
Black Hat.
It's just good to know, like, here's what's connecting, here's what it's doing. Also, a stat of note, nearly 94,000 DNS requests to malicious sites, right? So you guys are disgusting. This is going to be a very bright slide, this next one. Apologies. But again, just some more stats, right? So looking at what was passed over the network and what it is that we're doing, one of the things is we use, you know, Bart mentioned NetWitness, and we do logs, packets, and endpoint with that. Endpoint being just the registration machines. We would never ask you to install something on your devices, and if you did, we'd ask you to leave. We're capturing every packet that flies across this network, right? We don't do decryption or anything like that, but we do log the packets. And we do that so that when we do an investigation, we can look back and see what's in there. If you're not using packet capture in your organization, do it today. That's not a plug for NetWitness. I don't care if you write it straight to disk. If you're not doing full packet capture, fix that shit.
We do some decryption.
Yeah. So a lot of packets flew across the network in the last couple of days, 32 billion of them, right? So, and we, with a B, and we were like, I'm gonna keep them. They're so cute. And then you can see, you know, the types of email traffic that was going across and how much of the data that came across the network was encrypted email versus, you know, and yes, you are seeing POP3. There is some POP3, and we'll actually look at a little bit of that in a second. And then what I like is the top web categories being computer and internet, and then the second one being medium risk, right? Like it's just like, again, you're disgusting. Like it's just like, oh, hey, let's go do something terrible. And so when you're second, you know, in your top 3, there's already just like malware and other fun things. You're at Black Hat. Good, you want to take this one?
DNS. So Umbrella has been a great tool that we didn't have as far as the visualization. We knew some DNS before. We could get capture stats as far as we saw it, but it is nice to see what some of the websites are, getting some of that data. We don't necessarily block things outbound. There are some rules you'll see later, but we don't block anything outbound. So this is a statistical informational tool for us basically, but you can see the amount of DNS queries over the last 4 years. So that was 2018, 2019. What did we get up to? 49 million Obviously, a dip in 2021 and no 2020 in there. And then 2022, we surpassed 2019 numbers with 50.2 million DNS requests.
Yeah. And then on the right there are applications, so unique applications communicating on the network. So you can see those numbers grow too, 3,600 back in 2019 and 6,100 this year. So it's all about the apps, baby. All right, we do this slide like every time we give this talk, and we do it just to give you some, I guess, background information about how our goals, what the goals of the NOC are, and how they've changed over the years. Ultimately, the main goal of the NOC, and we call it a NOC for a reason, it's because we replace every router, switch, firewall, and access point in this network, in this building. Like, we own all of that equipment. The only thing that we use for Mandalay Bay is the wire in the wall. So we plug in from our gear in, and it pops out somewhere else. So it's just the wires in the wall. And again, so the main goal is stability. Keeping the network up for things like the training classes or for folks in the expo hall, that kind of thing, registration, and those things. So let's talk about that stability. We had here's a training class that was experiencing an issue very early at the start of their class on Saturday morning. We deployed NOC folks out there to troubleshoot. We're in there for hours. We're doing stuff. They're really upset with us, right? They're like, we rely on the network. We need this to work. People paid thousands of dollars to be here, all of those things, right? So we're in there going crazy trying to figure things out. We're looking at our data and theirs. I saw ping times, the largest or the longest ping times I've ever seen, 58 seconds. I was like, wouldn't it just say like host unreachable at this point? But no, it was like, I want you to know how bad it is. And so I felt a little bit insulted. But in the end, we troubleshot that network the entire day. Again, mad students, mad instructors, I'm gonna want my money back, all these things. And in the end, what it turned out to be was not our fault, but what it was there was a service that was running on the image that the instructor had all of the students using that was essentially, because they could see the other students, it just magnified the traffic on the network until it brought it to its knees. And we walked around and disabled that service, and we could literally watch the ping times get faster and faster until finally they were 20 milliseconds. And we're like, that's what we expect. So stability is the biggest thing, because if it's not stable, like, people are pissed, right? So that's the #1 goal. After that comes security. So that's why we're the NOC, right? We are a network operations center. We do all the things a SOC does as well. We have packets, logs, endpoints, SOAR solutions, threat intelligence platforms, like everything. You name it, we've got it in there. But we're a NOC first and foremost. We learned pretty early on that segmentation was necessary on the network, and we learned that because in the early years of Black Hat, it was the Wild West, and people would get on the network, learn something in their class, and immediately attack the class next door, right? So you laugh like, haha, it was me. It probably was you. Thanks for that.
It wasn't even classrooms. I remember the year that there was the media room that had the media guys were attacking each other.
Yeah,
The
press were like,
fighting
somebody
to get
just
that
told me
story
about
out
this cool
first.
attack. Let me try it. I just did an interview about this tool deployed.
So.
And then I think they ended up becoming the story because then they got found out and the other reporters wrote about them. So once we had the segmentation done, it turned to hunting, right? We wanted to understand what's actually going on the network. The thing about the Black Hat network is that every 5 minutes, we see the type of traffic that would cause a declared incident in any SOC or CERT in the rest of the world. The issue with that is we can't alert on things because we'd just be inundated. We are looking for a needle in a needle stack, right? There's no hay on this network. It's just needles. So what you see when you come into the NOC is a bunch of folks sitting around the edges.
This is Las Vegas, not San Francisco.
Yeah. So it's just people sitting around the edges, and those folks are our team. They're from Cisco, Palo Alto, they're from IronNet, and they're threat hunters. And we're using threat hunters because the best threat hunting is still done by humans, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. I will physically fight you. Come at me. Let us finish the talk, then we'll fight. Malware sandboxing, right? So when we see a bunch of interesting stuff come across the network, any file like executables, DLLs, PDFs, anything that gets a high enough risk score in NetWitness, we throw it into ThreatGrid, put that into a sandbox, open it up, see what it does, interact with it, and see if we can learn anything. Identity and access management is us trying to make sure that when configuration changes are done, we know who did them and that it's only a handful of individuals who can make those changes. The endpoint, again, I mentioned was registration. It's really just the Reg laptops and then the iOS devices that are on the expo floor and at Reg as well that you like scanned your QR code with. And lastly, automation. So we use a SOAR solution to look for the types of traffic that is command and control, like immediately showing up like on the network and plugging in, and we're like, that's going to a C2 server, right? Crypto mining or clear text credentials, right? And if we see those things, we used to like walk to the classroom. Like Bart or I would show up and be like, we need to see IP address, blah, 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 right? But it doesn't scale, not at this size of a show. And so now what we do is we see those things, we investigate them, and if it turns out that we're like, that's genuinely something that's bad, we'll throw up a captive portal to that individual, say, hey, we saw this type of traffic coming from your device, or we saw this crypto mining activity on your device. If this is expected, just ignore this. If it's not, stop by the NOC and we'll show you the packet captures, the logs, and everything.
And the thing about the evolution is, again, we talk about how far we've come, and it feels like there's still so many other things that we want to do. So it's never ending, and we want to continue pretty much all of those spaces and look at some others as well. So
yeah, it is the ever evolving beast. Also, that GIF exists just to freak you out because it never actually evolves. Like it never turns to Gyarados. It just keeps.
It only freaks you out. So.
Do you want to take this? Or you want me to get it?
So this one, so a lot of this is so these are actually Slack screenshots. A lot of the things that we want to point out here too is the work between all of these partners. And again, we call them partners for many reasons. We've talked about it all the time. These are people that are vendors that have paid to be in the NOC. We chose them, they work with us, but they also all work together. There's things that have changed between products because of the vendors that are all in there and the things that they've seen in the Black Hat NOC. But this is pointing out something that someone saw in one platform. I can't even see who it was that saw it first. Pointed it out throughout hunting, saw that. Somebody else went over on the Palo side and the Cisco side and started investigating. And this was Sherlock Rat, right? Is what we.
So it's a lot of stuff. These are just examples of like, again, this is the type of stuff that we see that we go, is this somebody doing a demo? Is this somebody doing a lab? Does this type of activity correspond with the class that they're taking? If it doesn't, this might genuinely be malicious. And those conversations happen. You can see like 8 replies over here, blah, blah, blah. And there's folks who are in there saying, I checked this, I corresponds with this class, that one's clean. I checked this, that's bad. I do whatever. Like, we think that this has a high probability of being an actual attack. So it's just looking for us to be able to confirm, is this something we need to tell the individual about? You'll often hear that, again, that Black Hat is one of the most hostile networks in the world. And that's true if you look at just the traffic itself. It's all those needles, right? But in reality, by the time we're done, there are probably more people who leave here a little more secure than when they came, because we're letting them know you showed up and this stuff was on your machine. And so, that's the goal here.
I don't think we've seen anybody actually infected still on site. This is all something that normally sees, and we see C2 showing up when somebody's already been infected and
not this
shows
show.
up on the network.
So situations at Reg, we got attacked a lot this year. I don't know if it's that you guys are happy to be out of your houses, but like the core infrastructure, like coordinated attacks on the Wi-Fi network, and a lot of activity pointed at the registration server. And the Reg server is like the crown jewels for us. We have to keep that safe. It's all of your information, and it's probably pretty valuable to somebody to have 20,000 names and addresses and all the information about the top security researchers in the world, right? So we saw plenty of attacks on the registration network, and we investigate those as well, whether they are physical, because sometimes it's like somebody messing with things, devices, or just things like this, where it's like, oh, somebody's trying to hit it with a few things. This is what happens on Slack, is someone's like, hey, I see this, blah, 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 go look. Yeah, that looks bad. Normally, any type of attack or malicious traffic pointed at registration, it shouldn't be there, right? And so it's like, should I block this? Yes, block it, go ahead. And then there's a little whack-a-mole, like kitty smacking stuff down there at the bottom. So that's the only things that we do block on this network, because we don't want to anger the demo gods and make it so somebody's demo doesn't work. We only block things that we can say with certainty, like this should not be happening. And so that's when that happens. You got this?
Yeah, so speaking of reg and stability, we shared one story, and we talk about everybody else's funny ha-has, and we'll share one of ours now. So if you were here Saturday morning for trainings and you were going to register and they sent you up to your class, there was an
without a badge.
Without a badge. There was an outage for a short amount of time that we caused ourselves. So there's some lessons learned and things that we take from that. And as I said earlier, remember OIP. So an interesting thing about OIP is that we feed, again, that's all packet data. That is the packets, and you can see in the top 50 clients, whatever it is, that it puts up on that map. We normally leave that server down in the MDF next to the tap getting that data. There is a client that you can run. However, that client to server communication is still
janky,
very large. So once we turned on our tool, and there was a few things here that happened all kind of in succession, if you will. We were on the same switch as we had put registration.
By mistake.
It doesn't normally happen. That was again a lesson learned that will not happen again. But basically we DOSed that entire uplink on that switch. I think it sent 960 gigs a second or something.
It was bad.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work usually. So we messed up. We learned from that. There was a number of things that happened. So also OIP that's not normally how we run it. We normally run VNC while it's down in the server room. But we'd gotten it cleaned up, and there were some other problems with that. The code has been rewritten a few times, and it's down to 5 lines or something to that extent. And there was problems with VNC. We didn't do it, and we forgot.
Yeah, so we shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, and it wasn't architected that way. We had set it up that registration was supposed to be on a separate network from the management network that we were going to use, because we use a lot of different tools and do whatever, and those need to be separate. But somehow when we deployed it, we plugged into the same switch.
A big part of that is we already owe a lot of people favors because we got some extra switches, extra things that we already didn't expect, supply chain, Cisco coming through the last minute. There were some hands shaken to get some extra switches.
It honestly was one of it was like, what, how many simultaneous failures had to take place for that to happen?
I think we said 3.
I think it was three simultaneous failures took place to make that happen. But, when
it happened.
It did happen, right? So on the road to success or failure, hackers don't like the sun, so we chose failure. So this is security, guys. So this is every freaking year. If you've been coming to this talk for a few years, we've showed you stuff that there's a security company that's hired by either the venue or the company that owns Black Hat, and they come in and do private security stuff, and they send all of their email communications in the clear. And we hate
People were getting raises. Somebody got fired because they urinated outside the building. I saw that email. Oh, he got fired. Thank you.
Anyway, so we're always like, it's just ironic that we're at a security conference and the physical security that's here doesn't secure their email at all, and we can see every incident that happens, and then, like you said, no, this guy's a solid dude, we're going to give him a raise. So this is, just a lesson about, IoT. So what's the IoT? We said there was about 400 different or unique IoT devices that had shown up on the network. And the thing is that some of them aren't so great. I don't know if you've heard, but some of them aren't so great. And in this case, we had somebody's, they deployed a camera, like a motion detector in their home, and it was showing video as well as like point in time, just like pictures, like it would take pictures, and then they were getting it to an application on their phone or something, and it was all in the clear. And then the other one is our own stuff. There's gear in the back that somebody had set up an IoT webcam.
Sean, it's you. Just so you know you're in the talk again.
The AV guy said, well, we're not in the talk this year, are we? Because they have been in the past. And I was like, not yet. And then I saw this. So sorry, Sean. We still love you, buddy. Good. And that, speaking of IoT, right, so
buddy,
that led us to the discovery of an IoT, like a remote feeder for somebody's cat. The cat's name is actually Garfield. This is why we thought that was pretty funny. But all of it's in the clear, and then like we've redacted a little bit of it so you can't get in there and mess with poor Garfield. But we have what we need to be able to feed that cat whenever we want.
It's already named Garfield, and apparently they keep pet profiles. That's all passed in the clear, and I'm sure you can't squint hard enough there, but it says nature, very lazy. So Garfield is a very lazy cat.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Let's go feed that little
Be a good TV show.
kitties.
API. So this was one of the interesting things that we found. This one was a net witness threat hunter that dug in a little bit, and this was a tool that was used for foreign currency trade. All of the data was that you would scroll through the app and see everything that they were looking at was encrypted. It was 443. However, when they made any kind of trade, if there was a change to their account, a trade of said currency, the API call was in the clear. So,
whoops.
That one messed up. We found that with NetWitness, and again, one of those interesting things that we dig through and find that verify said security, whether it's your mortgage statements you're emailing to a college, if you've heard that before, or API calls on your foreign exchange currency.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those things where it's like you can't trust that the applications are doing the things they say they are. Just fire up Wireshark, take a look, right? Look at the packet, see what it's sending, because you don't know if you don't go look, right? And then lastly, this was just we saw some nation state related malware, and it was when we dug into it on the device of an individual who works for a communications company that would be a target of that state. So we'll be chatting with them. But yeah, so hide your wife, hide your kids. Thanks for coming out.